Welcome to Outdoor Spotlight, an interview and insight program brought to you by Northwest Sportsman Magazine and www.nwsportsmanmag.com. Now let's check in for all things for the Northwest.
Hi, I'm Jeff Miller with Last Rooster Standing with my buddy Dutch. Come hunt with us and experience the difference in our quality cover, habitat, terrain, birds, dogs, staff, and overall experience. You will love the
Washtuckna area
and will experience the rugged but gentle hills of the scablands of the Western Palouse.
Welcome to Northwest Spotlight. Today, our guest is Ty Swartout. Ty, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am originally from the west side of the state. Grew up in Seattle. I'm married for 32 years, have two children, and I have 3 grandchildren and another one on the way.
Wow, congratulations.
And yeah, it's awesome and very close family. And I grew up coming over to Moses Lake, Othello area when my dad and I came over here all the time. And I joke that I kind of consider this area Disneyland to me because I spent so much time over here and had so much fun. And a lot of my best times I had with my father, who passed away 6 years ago, were over here. And so it meant a lot to me. And after I was a kid, I was in some bass tournaments and a couple bass clubs, and you know, we came over here fishing all the time, and then I bird hunted this area every year for the last 30 some years. So I've spent a dramatic amount of time over here, and just absolutely love every bit of it. And so when my wife and I started talking about retirement and where we'd want to live, I knew this was the area I always wanted to move to, but I needed her to, you know, get a feel for it. And we still wanted to be fairly close to the west side for grandchildren and children and family and friends. And I kept bringing her over here and taking her for boat rides on the lake. And she said, you know, I could do Moses Lake. So within 3 days, we had an offer on a piece of property on the north end of the lake, on the Rocky Ford arm of the lake. And we had bought a piece of property with a small shop and little apartment on it. And then we were, you know, like everybody when they come here, under the 5-year plan of building a house. Well, we made it about 2 months. And then we decided that we were going to build a house. So we designed the house. And at the time, there weren't as many houses being built as there is now. And so we were able to get it done fairly quickly. So we've been in our house, I think it's just been at 5 years. And we're on the lake on the Rocky Ford end. And we just absolutely love it. And we love the community. Try to get involved in all the community activities and going to the farmers market. And we really feel like this is the perfect spot for us, not to mention the fishing and the hunting that I have.
Absolutely. Oh, that's great. So let's talk a little bit about the Moses Lake Watershed Council and the backstory of the council, which of course is led by the Columbia Basin Conservation District, how it was created and your involvement early on in the process.
Well, early on, it was interesting. Back a couple of years ago when we had those 2 really bad years of algae back to back. And I'm the type of person that likes to get involved and likes to, you know, do my part and see if I can help in any way. And we, at the time, I started doing some preliminary discussions with a few of the agencies, MLIRD and so forth. And then I had heard some information that back in 2001, there was a huge study done on Moses Lake, and they call it a TMDL, and to look about back then how to clean it up and what they needed to do.
Oh, okay.
So that intrigued me. So I made a document release request to the State Department of Ecology to get all the information from that study so that I could, see what was happening and see how, it goes. So I reached out to them and made my request, and they got the information to me, but within 4 days of that request, I had 4 Department of Ecology folks sitting at my kitchen table.
No kidding.
Yeah, and so I don't know the backstory of that, but they came here and they wanted to hear what I had to say, and so we had a long discussion, and then from that point, it kind of grew from there, and had some ideas. They had some ideas, and I think they really wanted to do something and revisit this area because they did so much work back in 2001, which was a long time ago. And so between them and myself and starting to reach out and get other people involved, it kind of grew into this, where we are now. And so, like you say, the Moses Lake Watershed Council is a group of agencies and citizens, and me being one of them. And I wanted to make sure everybody knew who exactly was on that. We have Grant County Health, we have MIRD, well, I guess it's the Columbia Basin Conservation District now, Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, City of Moses Lake, Grant County Tourism, Bureau of Reclamation, Department of Ecology, and then again, citizens of Grant County. So a very large group, a lot of agencies. And what I really like about when we meet once a month is everybody that comes to the meeting really has a teaming aspect to it. They really want to do something. And that's what I've always tried to tell people. I grew up being a high school coach, and teamwork and has always been the backdrop of kind of how I live my life. And it's been really nice to see that all these agencies and the citizens and everybody's stepping up. Everybody has a positive attitude, and it really makes things move more swiftly and efficiently. And so that part, it's been great. And we're with the Watershed Council, there's a lot of things going on. I know they've got some grants up to this point for different dollar values, and they're trying to put more, and they just submitted one with Dan Newhouse, Representative Dan Newhouse, to get up to, I think it's $3.1 million for our lake to do some special treatments, and then also do some work up on the Rocky Ford end to maybe eliminate or alleviate some of the phosphorus that's coming into the lake from that area. So lots of activities, lots of ideas, lots of studies going on to see what we can exactly do to get this lake to be as beautiful as it already is. I mean, we want,
and keep it that way.
Yeah, we don't want to have the lake being shut down at any time.
Right.
That's hard on the community.
And you mentioned doing things and that they're doing. So for the conservation district, the Columbia Basin Conservation District, what are some of the more, I guess, long-term goals? What are some of the goals, the purpose of the district itself?
Okay, so one of the key things that helps our lake and dilution is the water that we get from the Bureau of Reclamation.
Okay.
And the 2 years that we had a bad algae, we had a lot less water than we normally get because of the way, the amount of water they needed in certain areas. I mean, it wasn't a decision on their point, like, oh, we're not going to give them any water. It was the fact of, they have to watch the water, go everywhere in the east part of the state. So they're not just doing it to flush our lake or dilute our lake. And so that is a big part of helping the lake, is getting that dilution water. And from what we've been told is we expect the similar amount of water we've gotten in the last year to now. And so that would be very helpful, because last year we had our lake was very healthy for almost the whole year. So that's a big help. Some of the other things they're doing, we had a project up on the Rocky Ford arm where there was some cattle that were in the lake. They had access to the lake, and at any time you could go up there and see 8 to 10 to 12 cattle doing their business in the lake. And obviously that's not good.
Right.
And so the Columbia Basin Conservation District actually did a project and put a fence in for them and put a way to water the cattle, and they paid for it. So that, that was a nice project. Another thing is working with the fish hatcheries that we have on both ends of the lake, being the state one that comes in Crab Creek, and then Trout Lodge, which is up on the Rocky Ford arm, to make sure that they're doing everything that they're supposed to be doing, and just make sure that they're partners in this also. And they've both stepped up and seem to be doing everything they're supposed to be doing. So that's goodness too. Another thing is, just getting the word out for people on, when they're doing yard work, or they're doing their lawns, or they're doing, try not to use a lot of fertilizer down by the lake. Don't blow your grass clippings or your leaves into the lake. Right. And that can cause some problems too.
Sure.
Also getting people off of septics, especially a lot of the older homes that are on the lake. A lot of them back then, the septics might run right towards the lake, where now there's a lot more restrictions. So if they're available to possibly get on the sewer system and deactivate their septic, that's a good idea also. And then there's one of the things with that $3 million is to do, I think it's called bentonite clay, and it actually goes down and seals the bottom where the phosphorus is in the sediment. And they're looking to possibly put that, so it will help when we have our big windstorms, that it doesn't churn up all that bad stuff on the bottom of the lake from all the years of fertilizer and all that stuff. And then another thing, and I know we're going to talk about it, is the impact of carp on the lake, and how much damage they do, and the sheer numbers. Fish and Wildlife estimated we have like 500,000 carp in this lake, and and they're up to like 40 pounds. I mean, they're big, and they're tough to get rid of. So they're looking at ways of also, we've done some minor studies on netting them, where they've gone out and netted for 3 days and got a ton of them that way. And they're looking at some other options, if we get some of this funding, of how we can take that a step further. And that's kind of where my Moses Lake Carp Classic, the tournament that I started 3 years ago, number one, I wanted to do my part. I'm not the type of person that asks everybody else to do everything, and I'm not going to do anything.
Sure.
So I thought, this is my way. Now, if we go out and shoot 500 or 1,000 carp doing that tournament, we know that's a drop in the bucket on the big number. But what it does do is it gets the education out to the community of the damage that we do. And it's a fun sport for the people that come out and do it. And so, that's just another way of trying to, help it.
Well, talk a little bit more about the Moses Lake Carp Classic and what it entails.
Well, what it is right now it's a one-day tournament. It's going to be on Saturday, May 21st. We hold it out of Connolly Park. It is, which is a beautiful park. And we start registration at 6. We have a boaters meeting with all the boaters there at 6:45, and we really stress why we're doing the tournament and the education piece, and then we also stress on safety. I mean, bows, and we really want people to be safe. And then we actually launch the tournament at 7 o'clock, and all the boats go out to the lake, and they start doing what they do best, which is shooting carp and getting them in. And then at 5 p.m., all boats have to be back in the marina or on the beach. And then we have a weigh-in, and there's 4 categories that we have for this tournament. The first category is the biggest fish shot of the day. And right now we have $1,000 first prize for that. And we have a very nice plaque that a metal artist in town has made for me the second year. That's how he supports my tournament. Nice. And so very nice for that. Then there's what we call a top 10 category. which is, if you know, like bass tournaments, they have their big 5 fish. Well, we do a top 10, and you weigh in your top 10, and then whatever team has the biggest weight of those top 10 wins that. But we usually pay down to 7 or 8 spots for that. Then we have a numbers pot, which is, you know, somebody goes out and shoots 75 and it's the most. And then we usually pay 7 or 8 spots down for that. And then the last one, which was kind of, I didn't know anything about it. It's a goldfish carp or goldfish koi pot. And what that is people get goldfish and koi at their homes and stuff, and then they get too big or and they'll release them into our lakes. Well, they're invasive. And so it's kind of like the golden ticket. Sometimes you'll be out there, and last year in our tournament, a gal shot one that looked like it was a hybrid, like it had like a koi and a carp made it. I don't know, but it had orange circles all over it. So she won that. We gave her that prize. So yeah, it's really nice. Lots of opportunities for, you know, people to possibly win some money. It's a great event. You know, we pray for good weather. That's number one. So after the weigh-in's all done, we calculate all the numbers, and then it takes us probably about 20 minutes, half hour, and then we go over and we do the award ceremony. And then after that, we have a very nice raffle where we've had a lot of people in the community, restaurants, and they've given us some very nice gifts and stuff to raffle off. So that's another way for people that are part of the tournament that maybe didn't win or didn't get some of the money or whatever. You know, we want them to leave hopefully feeling good. Hey, I won this, and again, this group of people that I do it with, the Washington Bowfishing Association, they're helping put on the tournament, and they're very good about, you know, teaching people or providing tips and really making people feel comfortable, especially people that are new to the sport. And that's what I really want, is if we can build this. And so we usually are done about 7 or 7:30. And so it's a full day activity. Well, the nice thing is the Columbia Basin Conservation District about 3 weeks ago said, you know, this is really going well. We really like what's going on. We like the amount of press we're getting. We're starting, the newspapers to come out, you guys, to kind of see what's going on. And they said, we want to take a more active role. So our idea of next year is that we're going to have it be a 2-day tournament.
Oh, great.
And then they said they'll take over pre-registration, and they're buying me some banners, and they just got a website up that it's very basic right now, but they're going to have this website to be able to educate people on carp, but also educate people for the tournament every year.
That's fantastic.
So that was very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the education part. For people who don't know a lot, why are carp such a detriment to the lakes and the waterways? Well,
number one is just the sheer volume of the carp in the lake, and to be out their excrement. I mean, the amount, you know, the fish, they're big fish. They're, you know, like you say, up to 40 pounds. Matter of fact, the state record is out of Moses Lake, and that was 48 pounds. So if you think about that size of fish and their, you know, excrement coming out, that's a big impact.
Yeah. When
they die, you know, a lot of times they'll, especially during the spawn, they spawn so aggressively, some of them will die then, and if they don't get picked out of the lake, it can affect, you know, the phosphorus levels in there. Also, they don't smell good. You know, I know there's a lot of people around. If you ever get one stuck under your dock or something, it's not fun. And then the way they eat, they're a bottom dweller. They eat a lot of vegetation, but they root around in the sediment, and it kicks all that phosphorus and all the bad stuff back up into the water column. And then also it doesn't, when they're spawning and they're so aggressively spawning, it does the same thing. It just kicks up all that bad stuff that's on the lake. And then one added thing with that is in regards to the fish that we do want, the largemouth, the smallmouth, the walleye, but mostly the bass population, who, especially the largemouth, they spawn in a lot of similar areas that the carp do. And, if a largemouth bass lays its eggs and then these carp come in, they'll kill off all those eggs. So it really affects the populations of some of our game fish that we really want to have around.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Are there, aside from the Carp Classic, are there some future projects that are being considered to help mitigate the carp issue?
There's part of that $3.1 million, I believe, that we're talking about doing a possible bounty system a couple weekends of the year, like they do with the pike minnow.
Pike minnow, yeah.
There's a few things we got to get worked out before that can happen, because right now carp are considered a game fish.
Okay.
And you're not supposed to shoot them and then just take them to the dump, because the assumption is people could eat them. You don't want to waste the fish. Well, I don't know if I would eat many of them out of this lake, but it is law. And so we have to adjust the law a little bit to be able to have a bounty system and to go out and net them. So I actually met with Senator Warnock a couple weeks ago, and she's on board to work with Senator Patton out of the Spokane area to possibly add some additional language just for carp, to make it easier for people to dispose of them after a tournament or after a bounty system, or even after a boat, a bunch of guys go out and they just doing a fun hunt. And instead of having to feel like you're breaking the law or doing something wrong, get out there and do it. Now, one of the things for our tournament is we have a commercial crawdad fisherman from the Portland area drives over, and he takes all of our carp away because he cuts them up to use as bait in his crawdad traps. So that we are not breaking the law, or we're not doing it, because it's helping produce food source for for the rest of the Washington State and Oregon.
That's great. That's great. So for other folks who are in the area, for citizens, business owners in the area, what can they do to help the Moses Lake Carp Classic, and what can they do on their own for their lake?
Well, I think number one is get involved. I mean, this is very important for all of us. And I just remember back to those years when they had to not shut it down, but close it to swimming, and how that impacted our tourism, how it impacted the campgrounds, people being on the water. And that obviously affects restaurants and gas stations and hotels and whatever it is. So, get involved, or if anything, just be aware. And I know we're going to start hosting, now that the pandemic's towards the end, we hope, some community events where we'll be able to explain more what you're asking about, what they can do, and if they want, I love to have, if they want to help sponsor something in our tournament, or people have given prize money, we've gotten gift certificates, we've gotten clothing, t-shirts, anything. If they feel like they want to be a part of it, they could reach out to me and see how they could do that. And for the Carp Classic, it's just a fun event. If people want to come down and see the weigh-in, and hopefully if we have good weather, we'll get a lot of fish. It's pretty interesting to see the numbers and the size of these fish, and they're not the prettiest fish in the world, at least I don't think so. So it's very interesting. And then to watch the word ceremony if they want. And it really, it really is a fun time. And last year we did have the Columbia Basin Herald there, and they took a lot of pictures, and I think it opened up the eyes to a lot of people. But one thing, Paul, right before I forget, I wanted to name off my sponsors this year.
Absolutely, please.
Give them the people that have joined in. So Cascade Marina, the Aspie Group, Aqua Technex, Caldwell Baker, Aaron Fitterer, Mardon Resort, been a big supporter. Panorama Heights Homeowners, which is the area that I live in. We've had a lot of neighbors that have just said, yeah, I want to help out, give me some they donate some cash for it.
Great.
Sportsman's Warehouse, North 40 Outfitters, Rock Top Restaurant and Michael's, they've donated the 3 years. We have another couple in the neighborhood. They sponsor the Goldfish Koi. That's Rose and Terry Wiseman's. K. James Designs is the metal artist that does our award. Phantom Bow Fishing is a bow fishing company that specifically sells bow fishing tips for the arrows, and they're on board. And then Chico's Pizza, which is one of my favorites. Smulligan's Restaurant has been on board this year, and then Northwest Fishing Report, a TV show that's on every weekend. I've talked to Rob Hall there, and we've been, I think it's Hall. They've been, maybe we'll do that part over. Rob from Sportsman's Warehouse, and he's been very helpful, sent a bunch of shirts out and a bunch of stuff, and put a bunch of stuff on their website, announcing this. And so that's been great too. And we almost had, there was a timing issue, but they were actually going to possibly send out their cameras and do a segment on it, but they had something else that was in works that weekend. So we're working hopefully for next year
That's great.
to get them on board to expand the media attention we're getting on.
So if somebody wants to be involved, if somebody wants to be part of the tournament, if someone wants to reach you to be a sponsor or such, how can they do that?
Well, my phone number is 206-459-2342. And my email is swartoutfamily@comcast.net. So SWARTOUT family, which is all one word, @comcast.net.
Okay,
And
great.
I love talking about it. And if people just want more information about what we're doing, I'm more than happy to talk to that also.
That's fantastic. So let's move away from the carp a little bit.
Okay.
What species of fish do you fish for, and where do you normally fish?
Well, I am a bass fisherman.
Okay.
Like I said, back in the 90s, I did 6 years of tournaments until my children got to a certain age. And then it was too much. I was coaching baseball and football, and then I was doing bass tournaments, and my wife looked at me like, you're, and so I stopped doing the tournaments, but I still love bass fishing, and I do a little walleye fishing, and I'll do a little trout fishing at Rufus Woods. I go up there 3 or 4 times a spring, but mainly I go smallmouth and largemouth, and I would say I probably do better with smallmouth. It's more the fish that I probably go for 75% of the time, but I do love catching largemouth, and I do fish for them also. I have my dream boat. I just got a Ranger Z521 bass boat 2 years ago, and I love it. And so I've been out fishing the last couple days. I did 2 days ago. I caught a 5.5 pound smallmouth, nice. And it was a male, and so that's a big male. And so, but I fish Moses Lake. I fish Scootney, the pool, Columbia River Advantage, some potholes. And I've fished Billy Clapp. I fish Bank some. I fish Roosevelt. Roosevelt is probably my favorite lake. We have a group of friends that every Memorial Day weekend for like 25 years, we would go up there and camp out on the lake and bass fish all day long. And then we go up to Roosevelt for a week, 7 or 6 families. We go up to 2 rivers, and we stay there for the last week of July every year. So Roosevelt is probably my favorite, but I get out a lot. Last year I did Sprague Lake for the first time. And so I'm trying to reach out to do a new lake every year. This year I want to go check out the Evergreen Reservoir over by Quincy. That's the one I've never fished before. And so I really want to look at that. But Yeah, I mean, I obviously living on Moses, I do a lot of fishing here.
Sure.
You know, but I try to go to the other bodies of water as much as I can also.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, Ty, I appreciate your time. This has been a great information about the tournament and such. And is there anything else you'd like to mention before we wrap things up?
No, I think the main thing is just when it comes to Moses Lake, I really think that we're heading in the right direction. I really think this lake is going to be all that it needs to be. And you know, and the main thing is just we don't want to, you know, have any situations. And I'm not saying that we're never going to have an algae bloom again, or I mean, there's sometimes you just can't help it. But the idea is to really limit that and to make it so it's a clean body of water for everybody in this community to use, and however they see fit, you know, whatever they'd love to do, and make it so that it's a destination for tourism. And you know, I think it's such a gem and it's such a beautiful part of the state, and to get people coming here, and then who knows, I mean, there's a lot of activities around the lake, a lot of new businesses looking for the area. I mean, along with that, I mean, there you know, might be additional people that come in, and hopefully they'll be able to use the lake as much as the rest of us. So it's the community that I just want this to be able to help.
Absolutely. That's great. Well, thanks again, Ty. We appreciate having you. Again, this has been Northwest Spotlight with our guest, Ty Swartout. And we appreciate you coming on.
No, I appreciate the time, and you guys have a wonderful day.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.